YouTube, it's Maya here. Welcome back to my channel. And a long time ago, I made a video called How I Edit My Instagram Photos. If you guys want to check out that video, you can click the links in the description box below, or you can click the card that's floating around here. But anyways, I made that video about a year ago, and you can already tell that my aesthetic from then to now has clearly changed by literally like what I'm wearing. I am no longer into the dark blue aesthetic. I'm more into warm colors and yellow. Even if you look at my Instagram now, it's completely different than it was a year ago. So I thought it would be time to make an updated version of how I edit my Instagram photos. But if you've never been to my channel before, I'm MayaHennessey, and if you like what you're seeing, then please subscribe to my channel, click that little notifications bell, that way you'll always be notified whenever I make new videos. But let's not dawdle on anymore and get straight into the video. Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate my lock screen? Like, I am so obsessed with yellow. It's probably a bad thing, but you know, it's fine. I mean, you can just literally look at my Instagram feed and see how my aesthetic has changed over time. Like, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see when I made the How I Edit My Instagram Photos a year ago, because you can see all the dark, cool blue colors that I was really into. And then it kind of turned into a more colorful theme where warm and cool colors were expressed. But then it went into a white feed, but that didn't really work out, so I went back to colorful. And then I started doing whatever the heck I wanted, but that didn't really look very pleasing to the eye. So then I discovered that I was really into warm yellow colors, and you can see by like the last seven photos I have that I'm really trying to achieve that yellow aesthetic. So to edit my photos, I use an app called Bisco. A lot of you have probably heard of it. A lot of people use it to edit their photos, and this is the software I use. So I just uploaded some photos that I have uploaded to my Instagram, and I'm going to show you guys how I edit them. So starting off with this photo, I literally like just uploaded this photo like very recently. When you guys are seeing this, maybe not recently because I'm pre-recording this video, but this is one of my most recent photos, and I use a filter called C3. I'm not really sure if this is a free filter, but I'm pretty sure it is. I'm super obsessed with like all of the C filters, and right now my favorite is C3. C3 already brings out the yellow colors in the photo already presented, so I have to make sure that I always take photos with yellow in them, and sometimes that's really hard because sometimes my friends don't wear yellow and then I don't wear yellow and it doesn't go with my theme, so that's a problem. But once I got the C3 on, I then go over here and I adjust the exposure. Now on this photo, I don't think I need to bring it up too much. I'm just going to bring it up like maybe 0.3. And then I go over to contrast and I either bring this up or down. And I think on this photo, I'm actually going to bring it down a little bit. And then I kind of go to sharpen just to make the photo look a little bit more clear. And then I go over to saturation, and I don't really mess too much with the saturation. I used to go like, woo, but now I don't do that. So I think I'll go up to like 0.8. And then I'll go over to highlights because I just want to bring these down a little bit. And then I'll go over to white balance and I'll bring the temperature up a little bit, and I'll also bring the tint up because this photo has a lot of green in it and I don't really like the color green mixed in with my photos, so I like to bring the tint up. Then I'll go over to vintage and I'll bring this up about 1. Then I'll bring the grain up because I really like grainy photos, so I'll bring it up about 5. And the next thing I like to use is the filter that's called the HSL. I'm not really sure what the heck that stands for, but I really like to use this because it brings out the yellow, so you can go over here and it gives you like a little spectrum of colors. So I obviously go over to the yellow and I bring this up as much as I can without it looking like way too much. So I'm going to bring this up about 2. And then I think I'm gonna bring this up maybe 1. And then I'll bring this one up a little bit. And then I'll go to orange and I'll bring this up a tad bit and then turn this down and bring it up. I know all these touch-ups seem very minuscule, but a little goes a long way. So as you can see by the before and after, it's very different, a lot more yellow, and it definitely fits my more yellow aesthetic. Now obviously this isn't the same for some photos. Some photos I have to do a lot more saturation or a lot more exposure or a lot less contrast. It just kind of depends on the photo. So moving on to a different photo that has a lot of blue in it, I'm going to go over I'm going to go to my C3 filter. And now the exposure on this is kind of bright, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm definitely going to want to bring the contrast up a little bit. I'll go over to saturation, bring that up. Actually, I'm going to bring this up a lot, about 2. I'll go over to white balance, bring the temperature up. I'll go over to vintage, then add some graininess to it. Then I'll go to HSL and I'll go to yellow, bring those up a lot. I'll mess a little bit with the orange. And now obviously you can see in this photo there's a lot of other colors like blue and green, and I don't really want those colors to be too expressed, but I also don't want to bring them all the way down and just have the yellow be shown, because then that makes the photo not look realistic. So I'm going to go over to the blue and I'm just going to bring it up a little bit on the saturation, but bring the hue down. And then with the green, I expressed before that I'm not a super huge fan of green, and the C3 filter does bring out a lot of the greenness in photos. And you can actually see a little bit in the water that there is some green being expressed from like the flow and just the trees and the reflection, so and so. So I'm definitely going to bring the saturation of the green down. I'm also going to bring the hue down, that way the little color in the leaf of the pineapple doesn't look a little too weird. There isn't a lot of yellow in this photo, but there is enough where it'll match my theme, and I definitely brought out more of the yellow in this photo than the green and the blue. That way it matches that yellow aesthetic. Now I'm just going to keep doing a few more photos just to give you guys an idea of what I do. With this photo, go over, give it my C3 filter. With this photo, it's like very overexposed, so I'm going to go over to the exposure and bring that down a few notches, probably to like 3. Then I'll bring the contrast up a little bit. I'll go over to saturation and bring this up. Next I'm going to go to white balance and definitely bring this up. I'll go over to vintage, give that a little bit. I'm also going to give it a few highlights because I definitely want to see more of the highlights than not. I'll give it some graininess, and then I'll go over to the yellow, bring this up about 2.5. The hue kind of gives a little bit more of the yellow in the floor, so I'll bring that up a tad bit. And then I'm going to bring the lightness up a tiny bit as well. I'm going to turn the green down because you can see some of the greenness in my hair, and I definitely don't want my hair to look green, so I'm going to bring that down. My jeans have a nice blue color, so I'm going to bring that up, but I'm also not going to give it too much power in this photo. Then I go over to orange, bring that up a tad, and there we go. And the last photo I'm going to show you guys is this photo. So once again, the C3 filter. I'm going to bring the exposure down because the photo is a little overexposed. I'm going to bring the contrast down actually. Then I'm going to bring up the saturation. I'm going to bring up the temperature. And I'm also going to bring the tint down because you can definitely see a lot of the green in this photo. Give it a little vintage and some green. And then with this, I'm definitely going to bring all of the greens down because it was just way too much green in this photo. I'm also going to bring a little bit of the blue down and then boost up the yellow. I'm going to save all these photos, and a really cool app that I like to use when I want to make sure all of these photos match my Instagram feed is actually an app called Snug. I've talked about Snug in the past. It's a really cool app where it shows you your Instagram feed, and then you can upload photos that you want to post on your Instagram and make sure they match your theme. That way you don't post something that doesn't match and then it throws off your aesthetic. So I really like this app. The only issue is that it actually costs a little bit of money. I think it was only 99 cents, which isn't a lot, but it is money. But if you're willing to spend a little bit of $1, then I would definitely recommend getting Snug. So this is what the homepage of Snug looks like. You'll type in your username and then you can press load my feed. So you can click this little plus button and add a photo, and then it'll like make believe that it's on your Instagram feed. That way you can see what it looks like with the rest of it. So I'm just going to add these photos that I edited. And I know some of these photos are like duplicates, so you're like seeing multiple of the same photos, but as you can see, these photos do match my theme, so I'm going to want to post them. So once I'm ready to actually post a video to Instagram, there's actually a few tweaks I do in Instagram before I post it. So let's say I wanted to post this photo. I'll go over to next, then I'll go to edit, I'll bring down the brightness a little bit, And then maybe I'll bring down the contrast. I'll always do this thing on photos where I go to color and I'll be on shadows, and then I'll press the very first color, which is this yellow tint, and then I'll click the color again, and then it gives me this little slider where I can adjust the tint, and I'll always bring it down to 10. And then usually I'll go over to the sharpen tool and bring that up a little bit, because the sharpen tool on Instagram is actually really good. It makes your photos look really, really clear. And as you can see, it's a very subtle difference, but it does make a difference, and I like the way it looks. So then I'll press next. I'll type in a caption like, "Buckle up, kiddos," and then it'll be ready to share. Obviously this process is very time consuming, but it does make a difference, and I really like the way my Instagram feed is starting to look. Well guys, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, click right over there to see my last video, and if you want to see behind the scenes or just more of me, then please check out my social media links down in the description box below. And always remember guys, when you're in the spotlight, strut your stuff, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!